we're back. Okay. Oh, and we're back. All right. So, do you want to tell them really quick what the donations are going to today?
Yeah, so donations today are going to the Exotic Feline Rescue Center, which is a sanctuary for big cats as well as small cats, so any wild cat really. They're in Center Point, Indiana, which is like pretty much in the boonies, somewhere between Indianapolis and Chicago.
Uh-huh.
But what they do is that when someone like U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or USDA or a cat gets confiscated for whatever reason, someone forfeits a wild cat that they thought they could take care of, but they can't. They step in and give that cat a lifetime home where they don't have to do any sort of performing or breeding or anything like that. So we have been doing some work with them on genetics, which is how I know them. And they're in like a broader network of sanctuaries that we work with. So they're a true sanctuary, which I'm sure we'll get into on the show today. But we really like them. So if any of you saw, Maya nicely tweeted my paper out. The lion that we sequenced, Brooke, was from the EFRC.
Yes.
So the first lion genome. So she's very near and dear to us. She unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago. But so anyways, if you have a chance to check them out, if you're ever in the area, please do. They have a cover right now.
Do you guys remember me retweeting that paper? It was like, what, it was a couple weeks ago or something already. Also, Z's, thank you so much for $30. Really appreciate that. Yes, yeah, Pog. Yes, Smile. You know what's great about, another thing that's great about having Ellie on today, guys, is that she's into esports, right? You watch Twitch.
I see you Twitch chat.
So you know, so she knows, you guys, she knows. Yeah, I had I've only had 2 other guests on the podcast so far. The first guy, American Eagle Foundation, he also knows Twitch. The second guy doesn't really at all. So it was interesting. But this will be fun. This is great. So how are you? I'm sorry, I'm so frazzled. I didn't even ask how you're doing. Nilik, thank you so much. Yeah, how are you?
Thank you so much.
How's your day so far?
I'm doing well. It's pretty nice in California right now, so not too bad. We are kind of in the middle of summer for academia. Is a little bit weird because we don't have the students on campus. So it's kind of like an in-between time, but doing pretty well. I'm sorry that I know how frustrating technical difficulties.
Oh my gosh, I know.
So it's like, I feel for you, really.
it would be another story if I knew what I was doing too, and I don't at all. So
yeah, I feel that.
But anyway, okay, so student, so you're at Stanford.
Yes, I am a PhD at Stanford.
Okay, and tell us what you're studying, what you're into.
Yeah, so my projects are pretty much divided into 2. So I use mostly genetics, like I said, and we can definitely get into that later on the show. So we kind of have 2 objectives. One is that we want to be able to use genetics to kind of aid conservation tools. So as a way to do like non-invasive tracking of animals. So a lot of the time to study wild animal populations, we have to do something like sedate a lion to take a sample, or even with like vultures. So I know you guys are big into birds, so
we love birds here.
Talk about. So you have to sedate these animals to get a sample, which makes it really hard. But if you can use something like genetics, so non-invasive sampling, so getting hair samples or feather samples, we can study stuff in the wild without causing any stress to the animal, which is really
cool. I keep learning about all this stuff. The last guy we had, Purple Martin Conservation, they're doing research with like, I'm gonna say it wrong, but studying hydrogen isotopes in feathers to find out where they came from. We just got $50 and then $10, and we've hit $200 already. You guys are nuts. Oh, I just messed that up. Thank you so much. You guys are so cool. It's so exciting. This is gonna be great. Okay. Okay, and then, so you said you study those wild lions in Africa, and then you study the pet trade, or the illegal pet trade.
Yeah, so then we also use genetics to study the illegal trade. So you can think of like when when someone is selling an animal part or even an animal. So tiger cubs, we recently had one that was confiscated at the Mexico border last year. There was a tiger cub that was brought across into Texas in a suitcase. And often, or even at like, the more
in a suitcase. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's really terrible. So so things like bones, skeletons, maybe you guys have heard of tiger bone wine. That's like a really big kind of
wine, like
medicine.
alcohol.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. What?
Yeah, so what they do, and I'm not an expert in this, but from what I understand, they boil the bones down and they make a wine out of it. And so tiger bone wine is like the big one that people are really interested in. But because there's so many captive lions in South Africa now, and so cat skeletons are really hard to tell the difference between because they all look the same. Like if you have a lion skeleton or a tiger skeleton or a leopard skeleton,
right,
you can't tell the difference. So people have been exporting basically any big cat skeleton for this product.
Right. That's
so
crazy.
Our idea,
I'd never heard of that.
It's super wild. And so there's some of the resources that I sent. There's some nice graphics of all of the different parts of a cat that people use for East Asian medicine and for trade and stuff. So, so our idea, or what I've been working on is basically using genetics to understand where these cats have come from. Because a lot of the time when you confiscate one of these products, right, you don't know if this tiger came like directly from the wild, like did somebody catch this tiger in the Russian Far East and poach it and then ship it over here or ship it wherever it's going? Or is it one of these tigers that are in like the tiger farms that are being bred in captivity, just like in mass?
Right.
And so we really want to understand where these products are coming from so that we can better combat them, I guess. So, yeah.
Right. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you. There are boys gaming in the other room. You can hear them screaming.
It's a passionate activity.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. We got a couple more donations. Yeah, you sent me a few articles and pictures and stuff, and I was looking into it last night and this morning. I had no idea what a crisis it is. I've never really done I've never studied big cats. I'm super new to conservation and exotics, as a whole. Like I started at a zoo like just over 2 years ago now, so I'm super new. Also super new to Twitch, but I've never really studied big cats. Didn't know that it was so bad. I don't know if it was in your paper or somebody else's, but I think I read that lion populations have decreased by like 50% in the past 25 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
50%?
Yes, it's really crazy. And so the weird thing about that is that normally when you look at these like charismatic megafauna populations, so things like elephants and rhinos, we see this like pretty sharp decline starting in the 1900s. But with lions, there was a decline in the early 1900s, but then over the last 25 years, because of this trade and because of human wildlife conflict, they've just gotten slammed. Right. So tigers, the decline happened quite a while before then. So we started kind of like humans started poaching them and doing stuff like they were declining in the 30s and 40s. But lions really got hit hard in like the 70s, 80s, 90s kind of. So it's been a very weird thing for people to start picking up on and seeing that they're also they're definitely, we're worried about them at this point, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I saw that trailer that you sent me too, Blood Lions, or is that what it's called? So a lot of it is because of that, I guess, business or not business market.
Yeah, so it's I think it's a big topic of debate right now. So if I don't know how much chat or about this, but there's basically an industry in South Africa.
Industry is the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, industry. I mean, I don't know. I don't honestly know what to call it either. I think it's a little bit unprecedented. You guys know about birds and reptiles and amphibians are some of the most trafficked animals.
Poor Play just donated $100. Poor Play, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Holy cow. Yes, continue.
Yeah, so birds, I mean, we get a lot of images of wildlife shipments where we'll see a lot of different wildlife in together with each other, and often there are exotic birds stuffed one apiece into water bottles, reptiles, snakes
Live?
shoved into like
Live birds? Live reptiles?
live. Yeah, so well, a lot of them die on the way over, but
Right.
yeah, this is how people are smuggling um, animals across borders, is hiding them in these ways. But the exotic bird trade is huge. And I mean, so in terms of, this doesn't really so much happen with the big cats, but with the reptiles and the birds and the amphibians, when they get smuggled over, sometimes they get out and then you have like an invasion biology problem, right, where they're eating the native wildlife. So it's a huge issue. But so in South Africa, there's what we call the canned lion hunting industry.
Yes.
So what these people are doing is that they have these big facilities and they're just money makers. And this is happening to a certain degree in the US as well with tigers, mostly. Some lions, but lions are kind of difficult creatures.
Yeah.
But so what they do is that they breed tons of lions. They're all in really small cages. And you go to one of these places. So like if you guys have seen those like walk with lions or like pet a lion cub. So when the lions are little enough, you can go in and you can do these kind of activities with them. You pay $30-$50 a pop for this. And it's like, some magical experience. That lion eventually in the first 6 months is going to be a formidable creature, to the point where you would not want any regular person going in with it.
Right.
And so then they are destined for canned hunting, where basically hunters come and pay to have this lion in some sort of limited fenced in area, and they just get shot. So their entire life is being bred to death, pet to death, bred to death, and then shot to death.
Oh my gosh. And lions that at that point probably trust people to a sense, right? I mean, if they're hanging out with people from when they're little.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the really terrible thing about it, is because these lions have you can debate, a certain amount over like, should we be breeding animals in zoos? Like, I don't know the answer to those questions. I think those are big questions that it's hard to get into, but with those lions, with the farmed lions, it's very clear that like they have no greater conservation, they're not contributing to conservation. Yeah. It's just a money-making operation. But at that point, they're making money off of every stage of the lion's life, which is terrible.
Yeah. Do you mind if I play this trailer for him?
Yeah, please.
This is the trailer for this movie, guys, about what she's talking about. The trailer was released in 2015. But here, let's just play it, because I watched it this morning and was just like, oh my gosh. Okay. Let me know about sound, guys.
Not allowed to use the cameras.
Yeah.
My technique was to get on and off as quickly as I could.
I give you 2 minutes to leave my property. 2 minutes. You are from the Greenish. We know you.
But what is there to hide?
I'll kill you. I'll tell you. I want you. Don't take the fight off me.
I think South Africa is most probably one of the only places in the world where we breed lions commercially. And we breed them for hunting.
We're talking of 6,000 to 8,000 lions in captivity.
It's not against the law. It's extremely unethical and immoral and against the animal's welfare, but it's not against the law.
Breeding wild animals is no sin.
Part of the story, part of the narrative is brutality.
Every single day in South Africa, at least 2 to 3 captive-bred, hand-bred, tame lions are being slaughtered in canned hunts.
I'm an animal lover, therefore I am a hunter.
It's not like we're mass murderers that just enjoy watching things die.
It's all about somebody going out there and having fun killing a lion.
I'm calling from the United States. I'd like to see about doing one of your lion hunts.
which is not open to scrutiny.
That is like the craziest. Oh my gosh. That trailer's nuts. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, how did you get into, is your focus lions? Is it big cats in general, or is it narrowed down?
So it's big cats, I think, in general, but mostly I focus on lions and tigers.
Mm-hmm.
So the captive tigers in the U.S. Is one of my kind of main focuses, and then lions in the wild. So lions are not as popular to keep in captivity in these kind of bad situations as tigers are in the United States.
Uh-huh.
But for South Africa and Africa, those canned lion kind of situations, and then the decline that you mentioned earlier is really what got me interested. But I am very new to it too. I mean, so I've been a geneticist for a long time, but I only started working with big cats or mammals for my PhD. So I used to work in Hawaii with arthropods.
With what?
With arthropods, so like spiders.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, so it was all new for me too, but it seemed like a really good way to apply my skills in a way that was more directly affecting individuals and populations and getting people to care, because it's very hard. Not that the spiders and the insects are not worth saving, because whole ecosystems depend on these things being healthy, but it's very hard to get the general population to care about a spider.
Right.
They're not charismatic, but if you can use these bigger, more charismatic animals, birds of paradise, elephants, lions, tigers, that kind of thing, whales, if you can get people kind of generally into the issues, then I think that healthy conservation decisions will follow. So
Gosh, with $50. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
That's a great word. I love that you're using the word charismatic. I've always had a hard time wording that when and Sinak with $20. Thank you so much, Sinak. Yeah, I've always had a hard time with the wording for that, because I've heard people talk about how like polar bears and things like that, they're a great face for conservation because they're cute, or they're fluffy or whatever. But yeah, charismatic is a great word.
Yeah.
So that's how you got into it then, big cats, because just you saw their population decline and you wanted to jump into it that way.
Money,
Mike with $150, and we hit our $500 goal a minute ago. All right, $577. Oh my gosh, you guys are so fast. Thank you so much. Holy cow. Okay, so this $577 going to the Exotic Feline Rescue Center, and you said that you feel close to this organization because of the research that you did with one of the lions from here, lionesses.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that research? Because I thought that was so cool. That paper, I read that paper for like an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I got connected to the Exotic Feline Rescue Center through an organization called Tigers in America. And what Tigers in America does is they kind of go around the United States and they find what we call our legitimate sanctuaries. Meaning that there's a lot of places that you can go to that say that they're a sanctuary or a zoo. And I know you know this because you've been in the zoo world. So there's a lot of places that you can go that are like roadside zoos that like you show up and you're like, this is not a real zoo. This is like some private owner who collected exotic animals that has them and is maybe not doing the best things with them. So Tigers in America kind of has this network of sanctuaries, which, like I said earlier, when these animals get confiscated or when they get rescued from these situations, some of which the depressing ones we can talk about later, they go to one of these sanctuaries in the network. And so I started working with Tigers in America, and Exotic Feline Rescue Center was the first sanctuary they ever sent me to. So I went to the middle of nowhere in Indiana.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. which I'm totally fine with. Love the Midwest. Actually was born in Indiana a very long time ago. So I went to the middle of nowhere, Indiana from Stanford, and showed up and was like, hi, I'm going to sequence your cats. And they were like, what? So slowly, you know, we started talking with them about how, you know, we can use these animals as like a way to study what's going on in the wild, as well as to like, you know, make it so, because their goal is to never have to take in another animal, you know, like they would prefer if there were no more tigers to rescue or no more lions. But that's just not the way it is. So we are doing a couple things with them. So one is that we've sequenced over 150 genomes. So meaning all of your DNA and your chromosomes from that sanctuary for tigers, as well as other sanctuaries around the country. And then we also built the first lion genome. So if you guys have heard of like the human reference genome, like that's kind of like the big fad, whatever. So we did the same thing, but for a lion. So there was no genome for lions. And what this basically helps you do is study their populations, right? Because we know a lot about human genomes. We know what the genes do. We know where they are. But for cats, we don't really know that. And so we wanted to use one of their animals as an ambassador animal, kind of like instead of sequencing a wild lion, to kind of showcase like, okay, like, you know, we can use these animals, even though like they have these terrible histories, they can still help conservation and be used to understand something greater. And also just the sanctuaries don't get as much love, I think, as some of the zoos, because zoos have big infrastructure behind them, but sanctuaries are often just started by individuals who, you know, they had some sort of history and then they said like, okay, I've learned what's going on with these animals. I'm going to give them a home, you know, just from building their infrastructure from the ground. And so we really liked the idea, rather than, you know, highlighting something like famous, like the Chicago Zoo or the San Diego Zoo. We said, you know, let's do it from a sanctuary and give them some light for what they have accomplished. So yeah, so that was what that paper was basically about, was that we sequenced the first lion genome. And so then what that will help us do now is that we have gone across Africa and we have lion samples from almost every country in Africa. And so we'll be looking at those to understand how the population declines have affected movement between populations, as well as just diversity decline. So you guys have probably heard the word inbreeding thrown around maybe sometimes. So, you know, when populations get really small, you then can have these problems where closely related individuals are mating, and that's not so good at the genetic level. So that was long-winded, but that's basically what happened.
That's great. So for those of us who don't know, including myself, can you explain like what sequencing is?
Yeah. So what we do for sequencing, so for any of the animals, we get some sort of biological sample. So usually we ask only for samples that are incidental. So we never ask that an animal is sedated in order to take a sample for our purposes. But during a routine health check, what they'll do is they'll just grab a little bit of blood or a tissue sample for us, so it's not harmful to the individual. Then we extract from the blood, we extract the DNA, so all of the DNA that's contained in there. And then we put it on what's called a sequencing machine, which basically goes through and all of your DNA is in these pieces in solution. And so you run it through a sequencer that kind of tells you, so, you know, there's the 4 DNA base pairs. I'm throwing it back to your basic biology Twitch chat.
A something G.
ATG. So basically then we kind of just chug along the genome and we say like, what is the order of these base pairs across the whole genome? And so what that amounts to, so if you guys know the human genome, so the human genome, we have 23 chromosome pairs, and it's about 3.1 billion base pairs, meaning that there's 3.1 billion of those A's, T's, G's, C's, and some order.
Mm-hmm.
And for cats, there's only 2.4 billion base pairs. So we sequenced all 2.4 billion of those base pairs, basically.
Is that the picture that you sent me? Is that what is going on in that? There's a young lady.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is a fun little thing. So.
What was that?
Yeah, if you wanted to pull it up.
Wait, Anonymous just donated $50. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is a picture of somebody doing the sequencing. If I can get it in a. I'm sorry, not my setup. Okay. Here. Okay. Here's this picture. So.
Yeah.
How do I zoom in on this?
So what's really cool about this, and why I wanted to show it to Twitch chat, because I feel like a lot of them should have an appreciation for some cool technology advances, is that when we used to sequence, so the human genome, the first human genome to be sequenced costs it took 10 years and it cost billions of dollars. And we sequence them, usually we do sequencing on these huge machines, they're as big as a desk, so they're giant. So what just came out, though, is this device called the Oxford Nanopore. And as you can see, so this is it. So it is also a DNA sequencer. And so what's really great about this is that we can take this to countries that have lower infrastructure. So places like Africa, some countries in Africa, some countries in East Asia, things like that. And we can actually allow them to do the sequencing themselves. And what's so cool about that is that, a lot of the time, this is the colonist conservation thing. It's we come over from the United States or Europe and we're oh, we're going to take your samples and bring them back and sequence them. And we'll let you know in 2 years what we find.
Right.
But with this, we can actually involve local scientists and kind of get them involved in that, which is just super cool. And also what's really fun is that we're planning sometime to do a live sequencing run from one of the sanctuaries.
Really?
So we'll kind of do the whole process there, which I just think is super, super cool.
That's so cool.
And a fun way to do outreach, I think.
Yeah, no kidding. That's so cool to see. This is the first I've heard about any of this. This is so interesting. I'm still looking at it. So how does this, what's the process? How does this work? What is she doing in this picture?
So what she is doing, so she has a pipette in her hand. So there's kind of this pointy looking thing that she's holding. It almost looks like she's Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something, but that is holding, that's holding some DNA. DNA that we've prepared, and she'll pipette it into this little device. And the device will take the strands of DNA and pull it through what's called a pore. And the voltage changes across the pore will allow us to know which base pairs are in that DNA molecule, basically. Sorry, I don't know how clear that was.
No, I don't know anything about it, but that made sense to me. That's crazy. That is so cool.
Yeah. So it used to, you literally used to have a full scale, multi-billion-dollar lab with a huge machine in it to do this. Right. Now we have this thing that's the size of your finger that we can.
So crazy. Last week when I was talking to Purple Martin Conservation, they were talking about tracking devices and stuff like that. And they have GPS backpacks that they put on birds, and he was saying that they have backpacks small enough to put on dragonflies now. They're tracking dragonfly migrations, and they have solar panels on them, so they recharge for weeks. On dragonflies. I cannot believe it. It's so crazy.
Yeah, that's so wild. I know. I have a few friends that do GIS type stuff like that, and they every little frog or little bird gets their
little backpack
fitted out.
Yeah. It's so even the way that I found you is so funny. I was talking to my mom this morning about the podcast and who I was having on, and she was like, "How'd you find her?" And I was like, "Oh, I retweeted a paper she wrote." So I just DM'd her, and she was like, "What?" She had no idea what I was talking about. It's so cool to find connections that way. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think Twitter is such a cool place for that. I feel like
It's so great. I follow so many people. I don't know who they are, but they're just like, people that are pursuing PhDs or people that are doing research, and in their bio they just say like, I focus on carnivores or like bats, like, and it's just like cool. Like, yeah, I'm gonna follow you and like see what you're talking about. And there's so many cool people on there. People that I'm probably gonna find a lot of people for the podcast on Twitter. It's so
totally.
So neat.
Yeah.
So let's go through let's look at all these pictures that you sent me, because they're cool ones. So this first one, there's a tiger cub in a water trough.
Yes.
Do you want to give some context on this one?
So if any of you are near the Exotic Feline Rescue Center and want to pay them a visit, this is a picture of Drago. So Drago is a cub that is currently at the EFRC. So he was forfeit from an individual. So an individual personally owned a tiger cub, and then as he got a little bit bigger, they decided, wow, this is probably not a good idea. This tiger cub already has very sharp teeth. So this is him when he's a cub playing in his water trough. So if you want to go check him out, and I think if you want to see them they're pretty active on Facebook and Instagram. I think they're EFRC 1991 on Facebook. They're posting lots and lots of cute pictures and videos of Drago playing, figuring things out. So he's a perfect example of the illegal trade of
right.
individuals owning cats.
It's crazy that that's even a problem, that you have that people think that they don't think they grow, or I don't even know. I can't even like get in the head of someone who wants a baby tiger. Blows my mind. So then there's a hyena.
Okay,
is also at the facility?
No, so this is these kind of switch back and forth. So this I have a special love for hyenas.
Me too.
So they're just so cool. So interestingly, like if you look at them phylogenetically, so how they relate to other species, they're closer to cats than dogs, which is something a lot of people don't know. But this is a picture of a baby hyena that I took in Kruger National Park. And we've been trying to, I think, on social media, just to get a more positive light of hyenas, especially since The Lion King came out, and it's, hyenas and The Lion King are not exactly beloved.
Not portrayed very nicely, yes.
Yeah.
$50 from Monkey. Thank you so much. I think that's your second donation. Thank you. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to pull this up. Sorry, continue. The way that hyenas are portrayed in The Lion King. They're gnarly in The Lion King. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially with the new one coming out, we're hoping to just give them a little bit more positive light. So I've been tweeting out some adorable hyena pictures. So
cool. I love that. Okay, guys, I was trying to put the picture on the overlay, but I you know how I am. Okay, so that's a really cute hyena. That's a young hyena, is it not? Or is it?
Yeah, he's pretty little. Definitely not the littlest one that we saw there, but definitely a younger little guy.
Cute.
Or girl.
Okay. Should I just keep going through these, or is there an order that you want me to go through them?
No, you can go through them in whatever order you want.
Wild dog.
Everybody likes animal pictures, right?
Yes, and we're having fun. I love having media on here is the best thing. I love that. Wild dogs, I think. Ooh, I'm spelling wrong. Here. So cool. Their ears are huge.
Yeah, so with wild dogs, so this is another species that I've worked on a little bit during my PhD. So we also built a genome for them. And wild dogs are just super cool. They are super endangered. There's not very many of them left. I think less than 3,000 or 4,000 of them are left wild.
I've heard about that they're not doing so hot.
Yeah, they're not doing great. And what's super neat about them is that depending on where you see them in Africa, so these like beautiful coats that they have, all these like nice colors, it will change depending on where you see them. So in some places they have a lot more white, and in some places they have a lot more brown. So they're super great. So
they're so cute.
I know.
I saw I forget what zoo I was at. I want to say it was like, it may have been Philadelphia. No, it wasn't. I was at a zoo and they had pups. They had wild dogs, and they had like a whole a whole section about how they're not doing great and how they had this breeding program for them.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool to see the pups go up and do the greeting behaviors with the adults.
Yeah, what's that? Or what do they do?
Yeah, so basically they have pretty big packs, so bigger than like a lion pride that you would think of. So usually like over 20 individuals a lot of the time. And so when the young subadults or the submissive dogs kind of wake up every evening before they go out for a hunt, the younger ones will go over to the adults and they do this like really submissive behavior. So they'll duck their head down and kind of beg for food. And it's just very cool. But they make all these crazy noises. So they start like yipping, whining and barking.
Yeah, like super expressive, huh?
Yes, totally. Which is really, it's like unexpected because like hyenas are the ones that, I mean, they're definitely associated with making a ton of noise.
Right.
So that's always like the most disconcerting thing when you're out in the field there is like sometimes you're sitting by the campfire and you just like feel something run past behind you, like laughing, and you're like, oh
my gosh, that's scary.
I'm not about that. Time for bed. But wild dogs are also very talkative, so it's pretty cute.
Okay, here's a picture of a lion. Can you see it? Are you looking at my stream?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So this, I thought that you would like because this is the lioness that is at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's, I think, 3 female lionesses there, and then 1 male lion. And I was lucky enough to spend a couple of weeks down there with them. Because if you guys don't know, associated with the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, they also have like a conservation science institute. And that's where the frozen zoo is located. And so what that is it's like a biobank resource for a lot of species where they hold DNA and cell lines for them in case of anything. And what was really cool is that Brooke, who was the lion that we sequenced as part of the paper, was the first sanctuary cat to be entered into the San Diego Zoo frozen cell bank, which was really exciting. So we were pretty proud of that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love the San Diego Zoo. I think it's so neat. I went there a couple weeks ago, and what is the mic? I thought I fixed it. Did I fix it? Okay, I fixed it. Oh, now I'm frozen. Wait, guys, my video is frozen, right? Camera frozen. Yeah. So I went to the San Diego Zoo a couple weeks ago, and they have conservation messages everywhere. Like everywhere. It's crazy. I was in the bathroom and they had it on the inside of the stall. Like, it blew my mind. And also they have people standing like all around that just know a bunch of stuff. I talked to this lady for like probably half an hour about what they're doing with white rhinos. They're doing like AI with white rhinos. It's so neat.
Yes. Super cool.
Yeah.
They just had the baby.
I know.
Baby rhino.
It's crazy.
It's brand new. It's so cute.
Okay, wait. So there's a lion, and then we have. Oh, this one's okay. This one's a little bit less white people happy. It's a little. We got. This is skins.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about this.
Yeah. So. Oh
my gosh, this camera.
So this is one of the pictures that we get from one of the confiscations in South Africa. And so a lot of the time you'll find skins or things like this. Either they'll get confiscated at airports because people are trying to get them across the border, or you find them at what we call mutie markets, which is where they sell what we refer to as bushmeat, which basically means it could be anything. It's a surprise. And people go and they eat this meat. So there's been a lot of campaigning in Africa to kind of let people know the danger of eating some of these animals in terms of like diseases and things like that.
Right.
But so what's great about this though is that we could go into these skins and we can get DNA out of them and we can find out where these animals came from.
Oh, okay.
So where they were actually poached from.
Right.
So then it's not like a mystery anymore. Like, okay, were they poached in South Africa, or did they come all the way from the DRC or something?
Right.
So for understanding poaching hotspots, it's an important thing, and it's really hard to be around some of these skins. Some of them you'll find, and they'll have very obvious kind of like causes of death that you can see. So I think that it's a very difficult thing to work with in some ways.
How much do the pelts weigh? Was a question in chat. I don't know if you know the answer to that.
You know, they're not, it depends on the size of the animal. Sometimes, depressingly, we end up with a lot of juveniles skins, babies. So those will be very light, like 10, 15 pounds or less. But I would say like on average, like 20 to 25 pounds, depending on how they've been dried.
Right.
For the larger animals. So,
okay. So the poaching is, do you think, is it primarily for the skins here? Like, and then also, I guess, bushmeat and then...
Yeah, so I think that, you know, poaching is a hard topic because a lot of it is driven by things that are external to whatever is happening on the ground there. So a lot of the people who are actually doing the poaching are not really the ones at fault because, you know, they're impoverished. They're just trying to make a living for their family. And so it's really kind of the people that are driving it on the outside that are causing that sort of difficulty. So I think that it's really tragic in a lot of ways when some of these poaching cases happen because the person who ends up getting convicted, because you can almost think of it as like, you know, like some sort of international trade, like there's someone at the top.
Right.
And that's not the person who gets in trouble when one of these poachers gets arrested.
Right.
It's the person that was just trying to bring home food for his family that has to coexist with these wildlife.
Yeah.
And then other things also happen. So another reason that we end up with a lot of these animals is that farmers will have some sort of conflict with an animal or they'll blame animals for death of their cattle or of their other livestock. So they'll put out snares or poison. And that will kill the animals. And so actually with the vultures, this has been a huge cause of vulture die-off. Yeah. So the vultures, actually, there was just a report that over 200 vultures were killed in South Africa because of a poisoning event. Because what happens is that you have the carnivore or whatever that eats the poison, and then the carnivore dies because of the poison. But then all the vultures come and co-feed on the carcass, and then they all die.
Yeah, I've heard vultures are also having an issue, and I've talked about this on stream before, because they give away or they give up poachers' locations, right? Because they circle carrion. So they'll shoot them out of the sky, and then and now we have this vulture crisis. And I was talking to American Eagle Foundation about it. We're gonna do something for Vulture Awareness Day. It's in September.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited. But it's a huge problem because now we have no vultures, and so dogs, I guess, are like stray dogs because there's so many stray dogs over there. Are starting to occupy their niche, but dogs aren't immune to rabies like vultures are. So now they're just rabid dogs everywhere, and and dogs and cats and people are getting sick. It's just like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So the stray dog thing is huge in Africa, because they get so many diseases that they pass on to wildlife, which is actually it's something that people, I think, don't realize when they think about stray dogs. And I think that people go there and you see these dogs that are like ridden with ticks and fleas, and you have a lot of sympathy for them. But so there's been examples of canine distemper, which canine distemper doesn't only affect canines, it also affects big cats, as well as other wildlife.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's been huge incidences of spillover to wildlife populations where there's been like mass die-off. And so they've passed it on to wild dogs. There was a big problem with Ethiopian wolves, which is like one of the most endangered canids in the world, coming into conflict with stray dogs. And I think there was just something published the other day saying that stray dogs are now threatening snow leopards, which is...
Oh my gosh. I haven't seen anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just nuts, right? Like, you think of where snow leopards live and how high up.
Yeah.
It's just...
Do you know how? I gotta read that. I'll look that up after.
Yeah.
People don't understand how much things, how much things affect each other. It's like the domino effect. I've seen a couple people on Twitter talk about, even in the U.S., having cats, outdoor cats, and how it's like become a really big problem.
Yeah, there was just someone published a paper talking about basically the life of like one stray cat and how much wildlife
They're
killed.
so prolific too, cats are. I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah, talking about like it killed some insane number of birds. Like it was a single cat that they tracked and it killed like over 200 or 300 birds or something.
Oh my gosh.
Just the one cat. So that's crazy. Yeah.
Jeez.
Really bad.
Well, I can't stop thinking about the snow leopard things. I gotta look that up later. So the next picture that I'm pulling up here is a picture of an elephant.
Yeah.
Did you take these pictures or are they
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Neat. Here, wait.
Yeah, this was which is funny because like if you ever think that you can't take good pictures, don't sell yourself short because this was my first time in Africa with a camera.
Yeah, that's crazy. It looks so good.
Yeah. So this is an elephant in Botswana, in the Delta. So the Delta is this really cool region that gets flooded every year with water that flows down from Mongolia, I believe. And what's really neat is that every year it floods a little bit differently, just because the water is flowing down from a source and it floods differently every year. And what's cool about this area, one, there's a ton of elephants, and this you might have seen in the news recently because Botswana just reopened hunting for elephants.
Okay.
Which was a pretty controversial decision.
What the heck do you do with an elephant when you hunt and kill it?
You sell its ivory, I guess.
That's it?
I don't really know, honestly.
Okay.
It's like that's a big creature.
Yeah.
So some of the more gruesome images of this kind of stuff of poaching is the rhinos and the elephants. When people come to take their tusks, they just cut the whole front of their face off,
right?
Basically.
Jeez.
Which is really horrible. I would not recommend Googling that unless you want to shock yourself.
Definitely not on stream.
Maybe
later.
Not safe for life, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that the ivory is so valuable that it's enough to warrant that kind of thing. But in Botswana, what has been really odd is that a lot of the elephants have kind of been flocking there because there's been so much conflict in the countries that are surrounding them, and there was a hunting ban in Botswana. But now the ban is lifted, so we don't know what's going to happen. And it's been pretty, I don't know. I think we'll have to see what happens over the next year.
Yeah, geez, that's crazy. I'm trying to get this picture on the podcast screen so I don't have to... Sorry, bear with me for a second.
No problem.
Guys, I'm learning. Oh, no, I'm not. Okay, I can't do it. Anyway. Okay, well, it's a really great picture of an elephant. So how many times have you been over there to Africa to do research and stuff?
Yeah, so I've gone twice now. So the first time was really just like mind blowing, I think. And I think it is for anyone who went, because you grow up watching, like, I don't know how many people in chat, or if you did, like, grow up watching Animal Planet, right? Yep. Like Big Cat Diaries, like all those like old school kind of Animal Planet shows. And just being there and like seeing it in real life and seeing how big the animals are and how close that you get to them. So something that I was really surprised by there is that when you go on a safari and like in like an actual park in Africa.
Right.
So not one of these like pay to experiences, but like a park.
Mm-hmm.
You're in like an Indiana Jones vehicle and there are no doors.
Yeah.
So like it's a big car, but it's like it's really crazy because you are like, you know, driving through and then you pull up like 3 feet from a lion and there's no door on your car and you're just like
wild lions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they don't care. So in the wild, if as long as you stay in the vehicle, because things obviously change when you get on foot, like you're then a possible prey item. But as long as you're in the car, they just like don't care about you. So we had like hyenas and wild dogs like running right next to us past our car.
Oh my gosh.
Which is just like, I guess that was something that I naively just had no idea. But yeah, and elephants, so despite the fact that they are like humongous animals, are really sneaky.
How so? What do you mean?
We had multiple occasions where elephants snuck up on us, which was like, how is this happening? Like, how is an elephant
like you didn't know it was there and then you turned around and there's just an elephant there? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So at one point we had like, we were going through the delta is like made up of all these rivers. And so we got a boat and we were like going on and going to these islands. And we got off on foot and we were exploring some of these islands. There was a black mamba on one of them, which is another story. It was terrible and scary. Yeah, so we were talking about something, someone was pointing out a plant and I was like, I don't know anything about plants. This was like semi paying attention. And all of a sudden, one of our guides is like, everyone needs to turn around and back away slowly. And we were like, huh? And like, we turn around and there's a whole herd of elephants behind us. We were like, okay.
Are they aggressive? I've never been around elephants.
So
are they just curious?
I think that they can be in certain. So in Mozambique, where there was a lot of civil war there, and so the animals very much associate people with like death, and you know elephants live such a long time,
right?
So they remember like poachers chasing them and whatever, and gunfire. So I've heard that they're very aggressive. In Botswana, the young bulls will make kind of a big show. Like they'll, make a lot of noise and like start to charge you. But what we were told is that if they charge you with their ears out, it's okay. Usually they're bluffing. Like they're just kind of trying to scare you. But if they pin their ears back and start charging you, that's when you need to start considering your options.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, so it was definitely nerve-wracking, but I think our guides were locals, and so you just basically put your trust in them, more or less.
Just back away slowly and hope that they don't pin their ears. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if you have the chance to go ever, I would highly recommend it. It's pretty life-changing.
Yeah, I went to Ghana over spring break, but not just because my sister was living there for a year, doing work with what was she doing? She was working with a nonprofit that helps get cocoa farmers health care. So she was living there for a year, and I went to visit for a little bit. But I saw little to no wildlife.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, it was in a village, and my sister said that I mean, there isn't wildlife because of hunting bushmeat. And she saw a lot of it. I mean, she was like, everything we ate, I didn't really know what it was. Like it's just like everything, like if you see it, it's gone, like, by the end of the day. So I saw very little. I mean, I saw some birds and I saw some lizards and stuff like that, but no mammals really or anything like that.
Wow. Okay.
One crazy story that she had, she was telling me on the phone one time, she was like, this guy, like, he went out hunting and he brought back something for him and his family, and he showed me what it was, and she was trying to explain it to me, and she was like, it was like a reptile, but it was like an anteater, like it had scales, but it was shaped like an anteater. And I had the exact same reaction. I was like, you are kidding me. It was a pangolin. Yeah, and she was like, he showed me. I'd never seen it before. She thought it was an anteater, and oh my gosh.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's crazy, but it's so normal for them. I mean, he just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's totally. It's totally. I've heard that story before from other people. Actually, some of my colleagues who went to Cameroon, it was like they had a similar story where they're like, someone brings back food to the camp and they're like, we're having something special tonight, and then like slowly it dawns on them.
Oh
they're
my
like,
gosh.
oh god. So that's really terrible.
Yeah,
that's
you
wild.
guys know what a pangolin is. It's the knock knock video. It's the debate video. Yeah, there's I don't know if you've seen that. There's a video of a pangolin like rolling in mud that people have streamers watch, and it sounds like someone's knocking on your door. Like they play. I mean, not the pangolin. The pangolin's just the video, but like there's audio over it that like sounds like knocking, really realistic knocking in your headphones, and it scares them every time. Anyway, so they've seen a pangolin before because of that. So thank God for Twitch. Thank you so much. Thanks Brad for $5. Appreciate that. We're at $813 by the way, which is nuts. You guys, thank you so much. It's so cool. Okay, so let's see if I'm smart enough to figure out this next picture. Okay. The next one was another lion, I think.
Another
lion? Yeah, male lion, I think. I have it on stream right now.
Yeah. So this is the first lion I ever saw in the wild.
So you took this picture, like you was just right there. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
So this is like how close you are to them, and I mean, like my camera has some zoom, but I actually remember having to zoom it all the way out to get a clear photo for this one.
Oh my gosh.
So it was him and his brother, and they were just off the car, basically sleeping. The brother was, as lions do, because lions sleep about 20 hours a day. They're very.
I didn't know that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they sleep a lot. They're like, cats are.
It's like a koala. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're snoozers. I mean, as long as they have like, if it's like a good food season, they like to snoozle.
All right.
For sure. Yeah. So, but this was such a wild experience. But yeah, so it was him and his brother. They were like kind of. The story was that there were these two non-resident males that had been coming in and just wrecking absolute havoc on the females and their cubs. Because we had heard them for like quite a while, but we had not seen them. So it took me 2 weeks in the field going out every single day before I saw a lion.
Yeah.
So, and this was in Botswana. So this is like really in the bush. So if you go to somewhere like Kruger in South Africa, where the wildlife density is super high and there's, it's less big, you see lions like all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like, it was very different here. We were like just so happy that we finally, because we could hear them at night and we'd be like, come on.
That's scary. What was your sleeping situation like? Were you in like tents or? That's so scary.
Yes. So there, it took some getting used to. Like there was like the first few nights, I remember we could hear stuff like running around outside of our tent, and they tell you, they're like, make sure your tent is zipped because a hyena will come or a leopard and like grab you and pull you out of your
tent. Make sure it's zipped is what you said? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. Make sure it's zipped and you'll be fine. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, great. I'm so glad I'm in this cloth tent. Like, what? So they're not, the thing is like, they tell you also, because, we're coming from the U.S., they're like, okay, they're not like bears. Whereas, because like bears, you always get the warning.
Nosy,
like, bears will just like rip into your stuff. They don't care.
Right.
But the cats and the elephants will not like force their way in. Monkeys will, though.
For sure. Monkeys are,
I have a very sad story about a monkey stealing my chips.
Oh no.
It was so tragic. And my friend that was there was just like, what is wrong with you? Like, but yeah, so we were in tents, and we would hear, so like I said, we would be sitting around the fire at night, and then you'd hear like, you see something dart past like your friend who's on the other side of the fire, and you'd hear like, whoop, 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 and you'd be like, what? It's like hyenas just like running around the group. And so you're like, okay, well, time for bed. But then you can hear them outside your tent at night. The scariest thing that we had, and that's because I didn't really know what that animal sounded like was there was a leopard outside of our tent one night. I think it was like a big male. And he was making this weird, like, it was a weird noise, though. Like, we didn't know it was a leopard at the time, but we heard, it sounded like it was, like, coughing. Like, weird.
I don't really, I don't know leopard noises either. Is it like chuffing at all? Like a tiger?
It kind of sounds like a chuff, but not as happy.
Okay.
Or like, I don't even know. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, you don't have to try.
Someone's gonna clip this and I'm gonna regret it the rest of my life. So anyways, so they make this like weird noise, but me and my tent mate, it was one of those things where you're like, you're laying in your bed and you're just like staying dead quiet, but you know you can hear it.
Right.
And so I whispered to my tent mate, I was like, Dorothy, do you hear that? She's like, yeah, shut up. And we're like, ah!
Is that?
So then in the morning, we asked the guide, and he was like, oh, it was a leopard. You can see his paw prints right next to your tent. And we're like, oh.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't get up to pee.
How long were you there?
So the first time I was there for a month. And then the second time I was there for like 2 weeks.
Okay. And you were doing research there?
Yeah, so the first time that we went, we were kind of doing this experimental kind of course, seeing what kind of science we could do in the field. So we took that little nanopore sequencer, which was nuts. Like, we took these live bat detectors.
Sorry, we just got a $100 anonymous donation, and Joe Kid just donated $100. So we hit our $1,000 goal, $1,013. Oh my gosh, okay.
Oh, awesome. Oh my
That's
God.
so crazy. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's totally, no, please. More $100 donations.
Yeah. Jeez, you guys, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This is great. I hope that you guys get a chance to actually go and see the cats.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
And we can, if they're not in your area, we can post the list later on Tigers in America of all the other awesome sanctuaries you can go visit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Find one local to you. Oh gosh, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, why was I there?
Yes.
So yeah, the first time we went, it was for this like experimental trip, seeing what kind of science we could do in the field. So a lot of the time, like I said, when you're doing science, you have to bring it back to these like big labs with infrastructure and whatever. And we said like, okay, what kind of technology can we take into the field and actually do science there?
Right.
So we took all of these like audio devices and bat detectors and water quality tests, and we took the little sequencer, and we just tried everything. And it was actually super cool because we would hang up the bat detector at night, and then we'd take it and pull the data off. We just had like a portable laptop, and we would put it on the data on the laptop in the morning and put it through this software, and it would tell us all of the bats that were calling the night before.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it was, and it did the same. So there was some, we also looked at like birds, although the software for birds is less good. So not as many people have gone in and said like, okay, this is this bird's call and this is this bird's call. And birds have so many different calls for different times of whatever they're feeling like, that I think it's a little bit harder. But
yeah.
So that was kind of what we were doing the first time. And also just getting acquainted with some of the wildlife there. We did like spore tracking. So a spore is just like an animal print for people that don't know. And so some of that, they taught us how to like track animals, and to like, if you say like, okay, is there a lion or a leopard in this area? And you look at this, like, I mean, it's crazy what these people can do, because you see it's like a dirt and there's just like a little tiny impression. And they're like,
I'm terrible at tracks. Terrible.
Oh my God, I'm so bad. Yeah. And they're like, it's a genet. And I'm like, okay, sure. So we were just kind of trying to see like what we could do in the field, which was really fun. And we had some of the local guides with us that were, I mean, they were really, what was really fun is that, they've worked in the field their whole life. Like, they know these animals so well in these areas so well. And it was really fun getting to see how excited they were about like them saying like, oh, I've always had a question about this thing. Can you bring something that can help us figure it out? And we were like, a lot of the time we like were finding solutions with them, which I just thought was
awesome.
super awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the second trip, I was at the Lion Traceability Working Group, which basically was this working group that's trying to come up with a way to make it so lions are not traded anymore, and the hand hunting and the poaching and things like that. So a lot of people from a lot of different fields, forest and wildlife managers came from a bunch of different countries. There was someone there that did, you guys were talking about isotopes a couple weeks ago. There was someone that did that kind of stuff to like figure out what's happening with the trade. And then I was there to talk about DNA.
That's
as I
so
do.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was really fun.
Okay, chat is confused. They've been talking about like they see. Am I like? Is there something wrong on my overlay? What are you guys talking about? Sorry, they've been saying that like there's something in like the corner of my overlay. I don't know what they're talking about. Is this like a problem?
Is it mine?
No, it's not yours. I don't think. Bottom left. Guys, stop. This is Citrus. Thank you for the $10. I appreciate that. Pepe laughing is not gonna help me right now. Is it a problem? Could I get someone to actually tell me if it's a problem? I don't think it's a problem. Okay, they're just being annoying. Okay.
They're just gonna spam.
Yeah. Okay. Ellie knows. Ellie knows Twitch chat, so it's fine. Okay. Okay. So, okay, let's see what is the next picture. Properties. Okay, the next picture. I'm really bad at this, but it's like a leopard or a jaguar. I'm terrible at telling them apart.
Yeah, it's a leopard.
It's a leopard. Okay. What is the difference?
So jaguars are exclusively in South America and Mexico.
Okay.
Used to range as far up into the U.S. So this is a baby leopard that we saw in Africa, in Botswana. And he kind of stopped. He was like posing for me. He was like a really big ham.
He's very handsome.
He is, yeah. So his mom was like just off to the left, like being annoyed. Okay, guys. They had just killed an impala actually that they had in a tree.
Wow.
And afterwards, he proceeded. So the baby proceeded to go over and like, for any of you that have like a dog or a cat, you know, like when they have like a toy and they're like, I'm gonna play with this while you look at me because you're watching me.
Yeah.
So he went over and started like playing with this dead impala.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool though. Like that's so crazy.
It was pretty neat that we got to see it. So unfortunately, I didn't see any. We didn't see any like chases. Like we didn't see any active kills happening.
Yeah.
Which, you know, when you watch nature documentaries, you're like, oh, these are happening all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Nope, they're never happening. Basically, we saw the wild dogs like chasing after something, but we can keep up with them. So, but yeah, so this is the baby leopard. I think like my photography skills, like it peaked right here.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be bad after this. Like,
okay.
One good picture, like really good, and it's like it's all over now. I got the one.
Really cool picture. Isn't there something about like their markings? Like there's like rosettes or something for a leopard versus a jaguar.
Yeah. So I'm pretty bad at this too.
That's okay.
This is my lack of cat knowledge showing through. But yes, that's exactly right. So, and also jaguars tend to be a little bit more kind of stout, like they're bigger, they have bigger heads. They look denser.
Thank you so much. Sniper with $50. Thank you so much. I'm trying to find like okay, well that's
I think you're right. I think it's like jaguar, like leopards, the rosettes are closed, and jaguars, the rosettes are not, or something.
Yeah, it looks like jaguars have like spots in the rosettes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what it is.
So like this is a jaguar, guys, or yeah. So it has like literally like spots inside the rosettes, and then this would be a leopard, because it's just like open spots. You know, I don't know. Definitely not an expert, but
no, that looks right.
Okay.
I know that like there are probably my cat people like watching the stream because I told them, and they're probably like, "Oh my god, Ellie."
No, that's fine.
Like, oh, sorry.
Hi, cat. Hi, Ellie's friends. Hi, cat people. Okay.
Oh, better cat people. But yeah, it's it's interesting, like getting into the cat world, because there's definitely, so like there's this kind of thing in academia where it's like, you know, charismatic megafauna can be like very divisive, I guess. So like because people are just like so many people love these animals,
Right.
like it can be a hard field to get into.
Because they're passionate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I mean, I think that it's a lot of these animals cross countries, cross borders, and so conserving them is like really difficult. Whereas like, you know, fauna that's native and endemic to North America, it's like at least it's all under one federal kind of rule.
Right.
Whereas like lions that are in like 20 range countries across Africa, it's like how do you manage that? Like
Right.
like every country individually. But another interesting thing that we could talk about, since we were talking about leopards and jaguars, is hybrids.
Okay.
And,
yes.
yeah.
There was a question in offline chat earlier, and this may be a different discussion, but about white tigers.
Oh yeah. Oh, we can totally talk about white tigers.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay.
Hybrids.
So, hybrids and white tigers.
Yes.
So this is a topic. This is a big topic.
Okay.
But so white tigers. The white tiger type or whatever, the variant, exists in the wild, but it's very, very rare.
Right.
And it only comes from India. So only Bengal tigers have ever been seen to have the white kind of tiger look, like off, not they don't look like normal tigers. They're white, and they either have stripes or they don't. So what has happened in the U.S. Is that, so this is where we can start talking about U.S. tiger farms, is that people really like white tigers. So they like the way they look.
Right.
They think that they're super cool. They want to like breed them and get more white tigers. They want to get what's called like the snow white tiger, or the golden tabby.
Right.
Yeah. So this is a white tiger with stripes. So you also can have a variant where it has no stripes. And then you also, there's one that's called a golden tabby that is white and then kind of has these like gold tinged stripes. And so people have been breeding tigers to try and get these. And I can also already see Twitch chat spamming inbred. So yes, so this is actually a lot of what we have been trying to figure out what has happened with these cats. So like I said, in the wild, this is only found in Bengal tigers. But in captivity, in these like not real sanctuaries and not real zoos where they are breeding all of these animals, they're crossing tigers and they don't care if it's a Bengal tiger, if it's an Amur tiger. Yeah, so here's the golden tabby. They don't care if, you know, they don't care what kind of tiger it is. And so for those of you that don't know with tigers, there's a couple of different what we call subspecies, and they come just from different regions. So Bengal tigers are from India, Amur tigers or Siberian tigers are from the Russian Far East and North China. Sumatran tigers are from Sumatra, and Malaysian tigers are from Malaysia. Those ones aren't very hard. So if you think about like a zoo, so when you go to like your local like AZA Zoo Association zoo, you see one of the subspecies of tigers because their breeding programs keep these subspecies distinct. So they don't cross like Amur tigers with Bengal tigers.
Right.
But in captivity, when like in non-zoo and bad sanctuary settings, what they're doing is they're just trying to get as many tigers as possible, right? Because more tigers equals more money, more cubs equals more cub petting, etc. And so they just breed them and they don't care where they come from, but they still will try and get tigers that are white or golden or snow white because people like them. People are like enthralled by them. And so a lot of what has happened, and so if you guys know the story of, I think his name is Kenny. So he was a white tiger that ended up being very deformed. His face was very deformed. And a lot of people think that that's because of inbreeding, which basically just means we've tried to get this white color to happen so many times. We had to start breeding individuals that were related because we were like, And this is like, this goes back to like you don't need to know anything about genetics to do this, right? You just have to say like, oh, I bred these tigers and I noticed that 1 out of 3 of them is white. Right. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to try that with this tiger. And so a lot of what
wasn't there a dodo video about him or something?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Here.
Yeah. And so what ends up happening is that because you're breeding these closely related individuals together, you can get what are called recessive mutations. Mm-hmm. And so we know about recessive mutations in humans. So basically if someone is a carrier for a disease, but they don't have the disease, and another person is a carrier, if they have children, so that's Kenny, he's, I think his name was Kenny. So he's kind of the face of this possible kind of inbreeding that happens with whites. So when you breed these animals together, if you're breeding closely related individuals, you can sometimes end up with other diseases.
Right.
And so Kenny actually, he, from what I know, one of TIA, Tigers in America's member sanctuaries had him. He didn't suffer from any other extreme health problems that were immediately aware to us, but he obviously has this deformity. Mm-hmm. And so what we're trying to do with the DNA sequencing is see what's really going on with these cats. And so from all the sequencing we've done, we have quite a few whites and goldens that we've sequenced because we don't really know. So a lot of the white tiger like hybrid knowledge that's out there is all kind of myth. Mm-hmm. So nobody's actually ever backed it up with any science.
Right.
And so that's kind of what we have tried to do. We do know, so from other scientific work, we do know like the place in the genome, the gene that is responsible for turning a tiger white. Like we know where that is, mm-hmm. but we don't know if there's any other diseases associated with that variant, if that makes sense.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's like a crazy example. I haven't looked at pictures of him in forever, but that's
so that's like the most egregious one. But we do see other white tigers in captivity having problems. Mm-hmm. So what we often see is cross eyes, and that can get like sometimes their eyes will just be a little crossed. Sometimes their eyes will be very, very crossed, mm-hmm. And it's unclear how that's happening, and if it's because of them being inbred because they're white. We also sometimes get like kinked tails, or they'll be like a little bit like almost like the Florida Panther story. So if anybody knows that, so the Florida Panther got down to like 5 individuals in the mm-hmm. 1990s, and they ended up being super infertile and had kinked tails and were really short before they moved in some panthers from the Rockies to kind of rescue that population. Mm-hmm. And so similar things we've observed in whites, but we've also observed it in other captives. And we think that that's maybe just a kind of overbreeding in general. So like because these captives are being bred so much before they get rescued, we think that it's maybe just that rather than the white itself.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I read some about this on Tigers in America, that website that you were linking me. You work with this organization, correct?
Yeah, so they kind of oversee all of these sanctuaries. Not that they own them, but they help them transport the cats and they support them in whatever way they can. Yeah.
Yeah. So I linked the website in chat here. What was the thing that I?
Yeah, so if you do click for research, mm-hmm. And then white tigers, there's some stuff, and there's also I need I think that there's some, yeah. Oh no, password. But there's some.
Oh yeah, Kenny, a white tiger with cosmetic birth defects.
Yeah. So, and there's on this website too, I mentioned earlier that there's a picture that shows all of the different parts of tigers that can be used to sell, that you can make money off of.
Right.
That's on here too.
Oh, that's right. I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, so and then this was like a big one. So this was the act in Vegas that was really popular, and they were like notorious for having white tigers. There's like a really long history of Vegas acts having cats. Yeah, so if you guys remember like MGM, like if anyone went to the MGM casino in Vegas, they used to have a lion. They used to have lions in there. There was several acts with the cats, and one of the performers got mauled. And so that's why the sanctuaries that we work with are no contact for the cats, because every time you go in with one of these animals, you're risking your life and you're risking its life. Right. Because if something happens, then that animal usually gets killed. So like we all know, like I know Chad is gonna go nuts if I say this, but we all know what happened with Harambe. Like, but this is not like an isolated incident, right? It's like if you have an accident with a cat because you are performing with it, like these are wild animals. You cannot tame them.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, no, that just reminded me of the other article that you sent me. This I did not know, but here, I'll link it in chat, and then I'll put it on screen here. I didn't know about this. This was, I guess, in 2011.
Zanesville, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, I guess, guys, and you know, jump in, correct me if I'm wrong here, when I'm wrong here. But there's this guy, so it was like a private thing where he had big carnivores. More than just cats, right?
Yeah, he also had bears.
Yeah, so Bengal tigers, lions, and bears, and he released them. I don't know why he released them. I guess he was just kind of off his rocker. And they had to euthanize, or they had to shoot.
Yeah, they shot all
49 animals that were released. 18 Bengal tigers, 17 lions, 6 black bears, a pair of grizzlies, 3 mountain lions, 2 wolves, and a baboon. Yep. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and this is kind of what Tigers in America is all about, is that what we want people to know that people don't know is that in captivity in the U.S., and this is like excluding, you know, your good zoos like your Chicago Zoo, Indianapolis Zoo, whatever, San Diego Zoo, outside of like accredited zoos, there are more tigers in captivity in the U.S. than there are total in the wild.
Yes.
So that's how many of them are being bred. So we think it's somewhere between 7,000 to 10,000 cats being held by these private organizations. And this is excluding the sanctuaries that I work with. So this is excluding those nice sanctuaries that that give them forever homes. And what these individuals are doing is they're breeding them for cub petting, which you can read about on the website. And they're breeding them. And so the problem is that you imagine, right? Every season you're trying to get cubs.
Right.
And then eventually this is going to be a 400 to 600 pound animal that needs to eat a ton of meat in a day.
Right.
There is a very small chance that they are keeping all of those individuals. And we don't know what is happening to them. So we don't know where they're going. Our guess is that they're ending up in the trade. But it's hard to bust them. But that's why genetics might be the answer to this question. Because if we can connect the animals to the trade using genetics,
we can figure out where they're going.
Yeah, we might be able to figure out where they're going.
What's happening to them.
Yeah, and this is, so with this breeding, there's a lot of facilities that are doing this breeding, you know, trying to get as many animals as they possibly can, that are also breeding hybrids. And so this is just depressing. Like, this is like, you know, you want to quote Jurassic Park. It's like, we didn't stop to think if we should, only if we could, right?
Right.
So we get a lot of hybrid rescues. So lagwires, ligers, tie ligers, tigons, anything that you can think of. Yeah, tigon. So that's, this is like a weird, so if it's a female of one and a male of the other, if it's a female lion and a male tiger, it's a liger. Right. And then if it's the other way, it's a tigon, I believe.
Okay.
I could have that backwards, but basically it depends on the direction of the cross.
Got it.
And so these animals are not in good shape. Like we can't see some immediate health effects, but you know, they usually die much younger than the other animals in captivity. Sometimes, like, this is one of those myth things that we don't really know. Like, some people say, so like, I think if you go and you search like liger on Google images, you'll probably see this like massive creature. Like, it's way bigger than a lion and it's way bigger than a tiger.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting here.
Yeah, and so, but we don't actually know if that happens all the time. So there's a lot of like unknown about this. But since there's no laws for this, like the U.S. has been very lax, and we can get into why, on like setting laws up for this. These people can just keep doing this, basically. Yeah, so that's a monstrosity right there.
Yeah, that's nuts.
that's a unit.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for us to kind of combat this when there's not really concrete laws for this one way or the other.
Right.
And a lot of the reason that there's not concrete laws is because the circuses, which, as you can imagine, had a lot of money and dedication for allowing animals to continue being used in entertainment, have lobbied really hard for there not to be any laws for this, because they needed to be able to put animals in small cages. They needed to be able to transport them easily across state lines, because circuses are traveling, and they needed to be able to breed more cats.
Right.
And so when the circus was still going on, luckily they're pretty much done as of a couple of years ago, there was lots of circus lobbying to keep these kind of laws from happening. Right now, there's the Big Cat Public Safety Act that we're trying to get through, and we're hoping that some of the science can go to backing that up. But it's just such a complicated issue, you know? It's like there's just so many hands in the pot. So, yeah.
Big Cat Public Safety Act. Here, I'm going to link this in chat so you guys can look at that. Okay. I think this is a really good segue to watch that video, the other one that you sent me of the tigers, the dodo video.
Oh, perfect.
Does that sound good? Okay.
Yeah,
all right, guys,
absolutely.
we'll watch this video here. Here we go.
Hi. You're a baby?
Tiger Mill is a facility that's set up to just breed tigers commercially in order to sell them, similar to a puppy mill. In the wild, a mother tiger may have 3 litters in her lifetime, 10 or 12 tigers. In captivity, she can have 10 or 12 tigers in a year. They effectively breed them to death. The cub is pulled at 2 days, right? It's still blind, and they'll bottle feed them. And when they're anywhere from 2 weeks to a month old, they'll sell them. Goes out on the petting tour. Very profitable. It ranges anywhere from $10 for a picture to enhanced playtime, which is $300 to $500. Now, 100 days, a little over 3 months, it's a 4-month-old tiger cub, which is sort of an adolescent. It weighs 40 pounds. It can literally kill a child. And so the cute little baby cub that you pet and it purred at you and you got to feed it a bottle, that's now no longer of any value. If they're in a hurry, they'll give it away, otherwise sell it to a roadside to generate people to come in to feed them dog biscuit, or in some cases just throw stones and get them to roar.
That's how the tiger spends the rest of its life and dies prematurely from a treatable illness or killed for its parts.
Roadside, it's advertised as a sanctuary. When we got there, not only did they have the breeding pens in the back, they had the front section. They would host tours, and then another section where you could sit and have playtime with the tigers. All 3 in one facility. Full service abuser.
All the dens and habitats are filled with wood chips, and we have found multiple nails.
So many of the animals had nails or staples in them. None of the water was changed. Food was garbage and roadkill. Very little of the waste was removed. 75 tigers, 1/3 of them had medical conditions. It was pretty bad. And that's how 75 tigers left Colorado and went to 15 different places in 40 trips in 66,000 miles. That was a special day for us. That we knew that at that point, all 75 got home.
All right. That's a really great video. Here, I'm gonna link it. Here you go, guys. That's a cool video because, like, the sanctuary that they showed in the video that advertises as a sanctuary, I forget what it was called. Like, I would see that sign and probably not, like, think about it. Or I'd think, like, it's a tiger sanctuary, that's cool, you know?
Right. No, me too. And actually the most horrifying part of that whole thing is that, so I grew up in Denver, just east of Denver, and Serenity Springs was really close to my house.
Right.
Like, it was maybe a 30 or 45-minute drive, and I had luckily I never heard of them or never went, which is shocking because I was like, I totally was super in love with big cats when I was little, so I'm like
Right.
surprised that I never went. But I think that's what most people think, and that's the problem, is that you're intending to do good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you want to support the cats, and so usually what we tell people as a general rule is that if you are coming into direct contact with the cats, or if there's any sort of interaction with them, then it's probably not a real sanctuary. Because I think that, like I said, anytime that you're coming into direct contact with them, you're risking your life and their life.
Right.
And a good story about this that I know, because it used to be very different, like 20 to 30 years ago, even in the zoos, like, zoos have changed so much in the last 20 or 30 years in terms of how they interact with their animals, what is allowed and what isn't. Basically it's like zoos used to go in with their animals. People have gone in with their animals before. Right. But there's a nice story from Pat Derby, who founded the Performing Animal Welfare Society, which is one of our sanctuaries that's up in Northern California. And she wrote a book actually about how her mind changed over her career of how this interaction with animals should go. Because she used to be, like, if you guys remember, like, well, not even, like, this is before I think I was even born, but there used to be these videos of, like, bears driving cars, and, like,
Right.
the old car commercials used to have big cats laying across the hoods and
Yep.
things like that. So these animals that were performing, and even some movies, like, recently have had, like, the tiger in The Life of Pi was a real tiger that they just kept throwing into the water that was nearly drowning.
Right.
And so she really goes through her journey of saying, like, oh, I want to work with these animals, like, this is good for the animals, I'm going to be in entertainment, over her lifetime of saying, like, no, this is horrible, like, we shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
And I think that that's, as long as you are open to learning about it, it's a good thing. So
Yeah.
hopefully we're trying to get the message out to as many people.
Totally. I mean, if anything from this podcast, like, even like today, before today, if I was driving here and I saw this sign, I'd be like, cool, like, I want to go check them out. Like, that's cool. I mean, that's fantastic awareness. That's so cool. So thank you for that. Yeah, what you do, so you do genetics and stuff. It's almost like you're like a detective. You're like, it's like cool. It's like you're like a sneaky detective for conservation. It's so cool. I love that. Okay, so speaking of tigers, I think there's one more picture of a tiger that I wanted to put up here. Or two tigers.
Yeah.
Is this at the where are these?
This is at the Exotic Feline Rescue Center, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, where is it? Oh my gosh, that's really big. Okay. Hang on. Okay. This is at the rescue center. So guys, this is where your donations are going to. These are cats at the center.
Yeah. So tigers love water.
Mm-hmm.
They love to play in their pools. And so a lot of what, donations like what you guys are doing today will go to helping them have nice pools and being able to play and have enrichment. And so this was a picture I took of Santasia and her brother Samo, I believe. I might get corrected on that. And so oftentimes with tigers, it can be difficult to keep them more than one in an area.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes if they're siblings or if they've been raised together, they will end up being okay with like hanging out in one area for the rest of their life. So this was during a rainstorm and they were just having a soak. And what's really funny, and it's a little bit cut out of this picture, but we often notice that female tigers especially, they always have to have one paw out. Like, I don't know if they like one paw out of the tub every time, sometimes two. I don't know if it's because like they have to be prepared for action or like, I don't really know, but it's like every time they're in their tub,
That's
we
so
like
weird.
all female tigers, they're like one paw out. But this is like a very common sight. So lions are like the opposite of this. Like you couldn't persuade them to go into water if you try.
Interesting.
They really hate it. So, but yeah, so this is one of I think this is summertime at EFRC, being a little rainy, but they have a ton of animals and some of their, so I think the hardest part of this work has been, so I think that what I like about my work is that I do a lot of genetics. And so I spend a lot of my time on the computer programming, right? Like I, sit and code and whatever. But what's nice is that you get to do these kind of outreach events. And it's been basically impossible for me not to care about every single one of these cats that I come into contact with. It's just impossible. Like you meet them once and you get to know them and you hear their story. And you can't not care.
Right.
So like, for example, there's a enclosure right across from Santasia's that had two male lions in it named Thor and Zeus. And when EFRC found them, when they rescued them, Thor and Zeus had been chained in a barn for their entire lives on very, very short chains to the point where they had never walked with really their back legs, and so they couldn't walk when they got them.
Oh my gosh.
And often we get them and they're covered in mange and it's just, and like the story is just never ends. So there was one rescue before I started working with Tigers in America that they had done that I think you can read more about on their site, where they had gone to a facility that was going to get shut down by one of the USDA or US Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm not sure who it was at the time. And they went out and the person that was going to forfeit their cats had just chained them all to a fence and starved them to death because they didn't want to deal with them anymore.
Oh my gosh.
We've had stories of leopards being held in oil drums, like as that's where someone was keeping a leopard. So it's just
an oil drum. What is that?
Like just those like big, it's like a big barrel basically, but like that's how much space.
Right.
And there's no regulation for basically. I mean, I think there is a regulation, but it's really small for how big the cage you need to be able to you have to keep a tiger in or a lion. And so that's how. And a lot of this, remember, was because of the circuses, because they needed to be able to transport them. So the transport cages were small. Like you don't want a huge transport cage, that costs more money. And so that's kind of just been carried over. And so there's no law saying like, oh, if you own a tiger, you need to give it like some space to move around. Nope, you don't. You can chain it to a wall and no one's the wiser.
That's so bizarre.
So there's just like, there's a lot going on, and the industry is just insane. So there's, if you guys really want to go into the deepest, darkest YouTube hole, there was a man named Joe Exotic who owns a like cat. He owns one of these kind of false sanctuaries, and he was running, I think, for governor in the state that he was in. Look him up on YouTube. He's a character. And he just got arrested for a murder for hire for trying to like solicit the murder for one of the real sanctuary owners who had like called him out on what he was doing, the breeding and the cat keeping. And so like these issues run so deep. It's like, you know, it's the same thing. It's trafficking, right? It's the same as human trafficking, drug trafficking, illegal trade. When we analyze the paths that the illegal trade follows, it tends to follow drug and human trafficking routes. Like it's all the same pipeline a lot of the time. A bunch of the cats that they have tried to help have been, so here's the big story. He's a real character. If you want to kick, go check out his YouTube. So a lot of the cats that Tigers in America has pulled have come from people who like are very obviously running drug operations, and like what makes someone more scared to screw with you if you have a live tiger sitting in front of your hall, right? It's like it's just like it's almost out of a movie. Like you hear these stories and you're like, no way this could happen. But seriously, like we always tell people, we're like, don't be surprised if somebody has a tiger in their backyard down the street in your suburban neighborhood. Like, don't be surprised, because we know they're there. It's just like, it's very weird. It's a very weird world, I think.
No kidding. That's nuts. Gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to pull up more stuff of that guy on my stream because I haven't looked it over before, but he definitely looks like an interesting guy. If you want to go check him out, that definitely looks like an interesting read. I haven't heard of all these things. I can't believe I haven't heard of all of these things. Like it really is. It's a crisis. I haven't looked into it at all.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea about it before I started working on it during my PhD. And I was lucky enough to start working with Tigers in America, who had done a ton of the work and research on what was going on, who basically looped me in. But I mean, it was probably as horrified as you're feeling right now. Like I was there 2.5 years ago. Like this cannot possibly be happening in the United States. And it's really scary too, because, you know, all of these, like if you guys have heard of the Thai tiger temple bust. So they found something like, I don't even know, it was hundreds of frozen baby tigers in this Thai temple that someone busted for trafficking. You think like, oh, this happens, you know, in Asian countries and, you know, not here. But that's not true. It's happening here. And so it actually
140 tigers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It says a week-long operation to remove nearly 140 tigers from a temple in Thailand. That's, jeez.
Yeah. So yeah, it's astonishing that it's happening in the US, I think, and that nothing is really being done about it. And I mean, it just speaks, I mean, and I know that there's been a lot of articles coming out lately talking about birds and reptiles and stuff. And I think that's just, and I mean, even arthropods, so like spiders, blue bottle tarantulas, things like that. Like people are trading anything they can get their hands on. But it's just scary, right? Because with like the, you know, when we go and our diplomats go talk to foreign nations about trying to, you know, we try to say something to say like China about, hey, you really need to start, you really need to stop it with these tiger farms.
Right.
And China just can go, okay, you first.
Right. Yeah.
Like, who's going to listen to us? Like, no one, because we're doing the same thing. It's just a little different, you know?
Right. Jeez. Well, if you guys want to read more sad stories about sad tigers, there is this page. They have a cat biographies page on the Exotic Feline Rescue Center. So there are pictures of some of the cats, I guess, at their sanctuary, and you can click on them and read like a tidbit about them. So if you guys are interested. And another thing for knowing more about where your donations are going to today. So for the last thing that you sent me on Twitter was this graph. So this might be a change of pace here, but you sent me a graphic. Where did I put it? You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Probably about lions.
Probably. Okay. Here. Oh gosh, I might have to just do this full screen actually, because this is. No, you guys can read that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so we may have kind of skipped over this information, or we may have talked about this. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about it. But yeah, this is just kind of, so this graph is a little bit dated. I think it was put together by like the IUCN, so the conservation specialist groups and things like that. But this was just showing how quickly lions have declined in the last 20 to 30 years. And something that has been, I think, really striking is that they've been extirpated in, I think, over 6 of the countries that they existed in. I think it's almost 10 now. So countries that there used to be wild lions, they just don't have them at all anymore. And if you look kind of at the graph, so the numbers on the graph near the lions represent how many lions are left. And there's really only 1 or 2 strongholds of lions left, and that's in Tanzania, and there's some in Botswana and Zambia. So it's mostly restricted to southern and eastern Africa. But there used to be tons of lions in West Africa, ranging all the way up into India. So there are also lions in India. That's the Asiatic lion, and I think that I don't know how much longer Asiatic lions are going to be able to hold on. So there's only a couple hundred of them left, and they're really, really inbred because the numbers shrunk so much. So because when you get inbred, a lot of the time you are at risk for other kind of diseases. So you can imagine if you're inbred, maybe your immune system doesn't function so well. So they tend to catch like canine distemper and rabies and feline immunodeficiency virus, and then they pass away. So, but yeah, this is just, I think, an interesting graph that people don't necessarily think of the lion as something that's not doing particularly well. But the Lion King being re-released by Disney, I think there was a really big push on social media to get people to realize just how poorly lions are doing. And I mean, along with them, actually, another species that gets like totally ignored is the African leopard. So they've also been declining pretty rapidly over the last 10 to 20 years. So, I mean, it's a sad story, but now that, our hope is just that people are aware of it and they think about it, when they're going to do some sort of tourism, when they're going to do some sort of conservation donation or activity, to make sure that, your dollars are going to really what you want to support. Because I think it's just like the tiger issue, right? It's like, if you don't know, then you don't know.
Right.
Like, how are you supposed to make an educated choice?
Yeah. Someone in chat, said, can you mention that the EFRC website is getting a facelift in the next month with new stories and pictures? So there you go, guys, by the way. Yeah, exactly. Like you don't know what you don't know, and that's why we're talking. That's why we're chatting today. This is awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much in just talking to you too. And let me get rid of this here. I'd done like a little bit of reading last night and this morning, and then I just read your paper before, but that's all that I knew. I learned so much in the past. What has it been, like a couple hours? And I'm sure the chat has. Chat, did you learn today? They they learned that, guys, how much does a bald eagle weigh? We can teach Ellie something. It's like their favorite thing. Yes, smile. Yay! No, you guys get it confused. 50 grams is a purple martin. 6.5 pounds. Yeah, you know, I love. I'm super new to Twitch. Like, obviously, it's a different demographic, and it's so cool to be able to thank you so much, Ryan, for $3. It's so cool to come on here and you know, and be able to talk about conservation with a different audience and like, and you know, and get the message out there in a different way. I've only been in it for 2 years, but in 2 years, you know, I've noticed that conservationists struggle, you know, with social media and with outreach and stuff like that. It's hard for them. So I'm like super grateful to you guys, chat. Thank you so much, like for hanging out, and thank you for coming on so last minute and talking about it.
Dude, you got
Giddy with $100. How much do tigers weigh is what he wanted to ask.
How much do tigers weigh? So tigers can weigh anywhere between 300 to 600 pounds. They can even weigh a little bit more than that, or a little less. But kind of within that range is where we usually see them fall. There's some, if you go to EFRC, hint, there is a tiger there named Max who has his own fan page on Facebook.
Oh.
And he is the biggest tiger I've ever seen.
How much does he weigh?
Maybe, I would say well over 600 pounds, probably.
Wow.
And he has a really cute story. So he was raised with a lion cub.
Mm-hmm.
So both, remember, we're not breeding them, so they've both been sterilized, but they've been together since they were cubs, and he's in with a lion named Kisa.
Mm-hmm.
And Kisa has ataxia, so she was deprived of nutrients at birth. We think that's what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so I call them the odd couple. So you can go check out EFRC's Facebook or Instagram.
Oh, here they are.
So EFRC's Facebook is EFRC 1991. If you guys want to see more recent pictures of the cats, I don't know if they have it linked properly on their website, but yeah, Max and Kisa. So Kisa, you'll notice she's like a little shorter in the front. And so she has some genetic abnormalities, we think. But what's really cute is that we have, EFRC has these big cat trees for her, and they've built some extra steps for her so that she can get up.
Very cool.
Because she can't jump very well.
Here, I'm gonna link their, I think this should work. I'll link their Facebook here if you guys wanna check out more stories, because I guess they're active on Facebook then, huh? Okay. Neat. Was there anything else that you want to go over, that you want to talk about or share with everybody here?
If Twitch chat has any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. And you can always find me on Twitter. Maya kindly retweeted me.
Yeah. Go follow her on Twitter. She posts cool stuff all the time.
Yeah, so I post pictures, and feel free to ask questions. All of my research I post on open source journals. So if you feel like slugging through a scientific paper, you should be able to access ours. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and super grateful to all of you guys, and especially Maya, for having me on here. This has been wonderful.
Dude, you got
Mad Mike with $200 to hit our $1,500 donation goal. Thank you so much. So cool. Mike, you're so generous. Thank you so much. Here we got a couple questions. What's her Twitter? Go on my Twitter. It's like Ellie_cat. Here, I'll link it.
Ellie Cat, like Alley Cat, except for I made a bad pun. So
that's good. I didn't even think about that. Here, wait. Let me. I'm gonna link her Twitter. So a couple questions in chat. One of them was, what games do you play? Unrelated.
What games do I play?
Uh-huh.
So because I hate myself, apparently, I play League of Legends.
Okay.
So, hey, TFT is super fun. I like that game because nobody talks in chat. Yeah, play and watch a lot of League of Legends. My first ever, here's a funny story. My first ever experience with Twitch chat was I went to watch League of Legends live, which was super, super fun. And I was wearing a jersey of a team that I got interviewed and they said, who do you think will win? And I said a different team than the jersey I was wearing. So the owners pulled me onto the live stream to give me the jersey of the team. And it was the most embarrassing thing of my life. So I was on the League of Legends live Riot game, whatever.
That's
that was
so
horrifying.
funny.
I thought I was going to die. It was terrible. But yeah, so I play League. I play Elder Scrolls. I think that's really fun. I'm just now getting into PC games. So if you guys have some suggestions, I've played Fortnite a few times.
Okay.
Nice. But I'm pretty terrible at it. So, I mean, I'm also terrible at League. I'm like gold.
Yeah, I wish I was more into games. I can't. I've tried to play some of them and I just can't get into it. I'm terrible. And I just get frustrated and then I stop playing. Okay, and then the other question that was in here was, well, gosh, no, I should have copied it. I think it was something like this might open up a whole new can of worms, but it was something like what can realistically be done to stop the inbreeding?
The inbreeding.
Yeah, thank you, Danger.
That's a good question. So, I mean, I think in general, our goal, at least in captivity, in the situations we've been talking about, is for people not to be able to allow to breed tigers in a private situation. Like if zoos want to continue doing it under very carefully monitored situations, that's a different question.
Right.
But inbreeding is a hard thing to reverse. And if it happens in the wild, like if it happens naturally because a population declines, rescue, what we call genetic rescue, has worked before. So I mentioned the Florida panther. So when the Florida panther got down to like 5 individuals, they brought in individuals from, they were still panthers, but they were from the Rockies, so a different population. They brought those into Florida, and that kind of turned things around from them. So this has also happened with the black-footed ferret is a really famous one, and your guys' favorite birds. So the Hawaiian crow, called the alala, not a nice name. I feel stupid when I say it, like I'm trying to sing or something. But so the alala was almost extinct, and San Diego Zoo has been doing some serious work to get the numbers back up in the wild. And as you guys know, crows are fascinatingly smart. So we're very hopeful for them. And there's similar stories with the California condor, which I'm sure you bird people know about.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, well, that looked like pretty much it for all the serious questions, or all the questions that I'm gonna relay to you. Here, oh, that's right. We have Citrus made something for you. Here it is. How cute! So we have a nice thank you card, an thank you card. I'll send it to you. I'll DM it to you on Twitter. But thank you, Ellie, for being amazing. And here's some people, some regulars in chat. Citrus, thank you for making this. This is so sweet. Ellie, thank you so much for coming on here, and there's such last minute, and for teaching us so much, teaching me and everybody so much. This is so cool. Thank you so much. And guys, another $20 from Raven Care. Raven, thank you so much. We ended today at $1,571.11 for the Exotic Feline Rescue Center, which is so, so cool. Guys, I will do Command EFRC. I always mess up that acronym. Command EFRC in chat to check out more in that organization. Thank you guys so much for your donations. This was insane. Super, super great podcast. Thank you for being so cool in chat. Thank you for not being, your annoying selves. But yeah, Ellie, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time and your knowledge and for talking to us about all this. Go follow Ellie on Twitter. Here's her Twitter again. All right. Is there anything else that you want to share?
No, just that this is an awesome idea that you had, Maya. This is such a cool cast, and I'm really looking forward to following it. I was super excited because I saw you were doing it, and I was like, wow, it'd be so cool to be on that one day. I'm going to catch the next one. And it's on Twitch, my favorite thing.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And then I ended up being on it, so there you go.
So cool.
Yeah, so feel free to send me questions, guys, and if you ever if you ever need your daily cat fact, hit me up.
Totally. Okay, I'll DM you this thank you card. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Miz is going to go live in a little less than an hour. Thank you for bearing with me with the technical issues and whatever, and for learning. I'm glad that you guys learned some more today. Okay, well, I will DM you all this stuff. Thank you again so much. This was so cool. And I will talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks,
okay.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.